and boom goes the dynamite.
Welcome back to the only live crosstalk show. This is the Daily Dive. I'm your host, Michael Carvelis. To everyone on the West Coast, good morning. To everyone on the East Coast, good afternoon. It's time for lunch. On today's show, our top story will be Buffalo wins it all. Something this city deserved, and my reaction to the game. Our Fanatics segment will be Finals MVP Dhane Smith, and he kept the receipts. Last Brew by B-Res Coffee Company, code Daily Dive at checkout, will be PLL Week 1 reaction and recap. Without further ado, let's remind you, the best way to support Daily Dive is to click on Daily Dive Lax on social media and in the link tree and shop the Our store. You get everything with this great logo on it. So when you go to Daily Dive Lax on social media and click the follow button, be sure to check out the link tree and click the Our Store tab. It's the best way to support the show as we try to grow the game. And our top story presented by that amazing shop is Buffalo has won the whole thing. In the last year or so, Buffalo, New York has experienced a horrible grocery store shooting. They've experienced an unprecedented winter storm. Damar Hamlin had an on-field scare for the Buffalo Bills, and as we know, Buffalo team sports is one big family. One of their team owners, Miss Pagula, suffered cardiac arrest. And of course, we all know the Buffalo teams have not been able to win it all in quite some time. But John Tavares was successful as a player and now as a coach. This one was not just the Buffalo Bandits. This one was the city of Buffalo. 18,296 were in Banditland for their Game 3 win. The game did start slow, I felt like, as Colorado just mustered 4 goals for the entire game. But it never felt like they had a chance because Buffalo's defense was incredible, and that includes Matt Vince. Matt Vince was incredible all playoffs, and he could have easily won Finals MVP as well. As we know, as I reported, Josh Byrne did play and was instant offense once again. This team was incredible, and I felt like they deserved it and put their foot on the gas until the very end. Dhane Smith might have felt snubbed for not winning league MVP, as he then won Finals MVP with a brilliant NLL Finals performance. And I do have to wonder, humbly here, if Buffalo Bandits used what I've been saying on social media for motivation. As we know, and everyone knows by now in the lacrosse community, I had a tweet that said Dhane Smith is 0-3 in the NLL Finals. I thought leading up to that point where I tweeted at Game 2 early that he had not been great since he had those 3 or 4 quick goals in quarter 1 of Game 1. However, I immediately tweeted afterwards that I felt like he suddenly got going. And although they lost Game 2 and there was a big burden on the shoulders of their best players, they all stepped up and all were incredible. I want to give a major shout out to this team for not backing down and for rising above the moments in a time where they probably need it the most. As we mentioned, Phil from Buffalo Sports Collective did say, was this, if this team did not do it, were they going to do it? So a huge victory for the Buffalo Bandits. Colorado Mammoth, to me, did not have enough firepower, and Matt Vince, as I predicted, turned back the clock in Game 3 and reached a rabbit out of the hat one final time. We don't know this is Matt Vince's final game. Dhane Smith had a one-year deal for Buffalo this season. But we saw greatness finally, and this city deserved it. So this will not be an I told you so. This will not be an all darn I wish they lost. This will be congratulations to Buffalo and, of course, the NLL for an incredible season under first-year commissioner Brett Frude. This was everything you wanted, the drama, the rematch, etc. Great job, the Buffalo Bandits. They earned it, they deserve it, and shout out to Dhane Smith. However, when I come back, I'll expand more on the tweet that I said as Dhane Smith gave it some big-time lights. We'll talk about that next because I have to. This is Daily Dive. Don't go anywhere. If you want the best in sports merchandise and memorabilia from every team, from every league, head to Fanatics. But in order to get there, go to Daily Dive Lax on social media. Click the link tree and then click Fanatics logo. When you go to the Fanatics website, make a purchase from things like the NLL or, of course, the Bandits Championship merchandise, even other leagues like NFL and baseball, basketball. When you use our link tree, we get credits, and we thank you so much for that. Fanatics and Daily Dive, a great fan of lacrosse experience. Dhane Smith was the finals MVP, and deservedly so. He had an epic playoffs, even without Josh Byrne at times, and really awesome finals games. He was my pick for league MVP, and no doubt, as I mentioned before, may have used that as motivation from not winning the league MVP. I love the fact that he had some awesome and epic timeless photos after the game with cigars in his mouth and, of course, a bag of confetti, which I thought was absolutely insane. Now, personally, I thought either Matt Vince or Dhane Smith could have won finals MVP, so I wasn't mad at who the league chose. So I want to say that both those guys were absolutely insane. However, I love that the guy kept receipts. As you guys know, I'm actually a big Dhane Smith fan. Anybody who actually watches the show understands that fact. He added me on Twitter saying to Curtis Dixon and Christian Del Bianco, "This guy's pretty good at his job, eh?" And he added a picture of him holding a trophy. I personally loved it because not only does it grow my brand here and help out Daily Dive, I thought it was also very lighthearted. We know that Christian Del Bianco and Curtis Dixon have had their run-ins with me on Twitter, but I never felt like it was anything ill-willed. I know fans will, because they're a cesspool, will go after me and say, well, this guy's fat or never played lacrosse, doesn't know what he's talking about. And I get it, it's an emotional reaction. I can take the heat. I'm not mad at that. I'm happy that they recognize that I'm a voice in this space. I'm happy that I can contribute to what is known as now NLL Twitter. I feel like I've been able to grow. It helps me out, and it helps grow the game. Because as I've said on the show before, I've been very vocal about players being more involved, about the leagues being more involved on social media. And I feel like Dhane Smith and Del Bianco, MVP and Finals MVP, going after me on Twitter was amazing for the brand of the league and, of course, Daily Dive. I do not come on the show and say things just to say them. I don't come in here and look for clicks because that's stupid. I say things that I believe, and if you guys run with them, that's great. But I think it's awesome that these players have gone on Twitter and kept the receipt. That tweet was made May 29th. He didn't just see that on his timeline. As I mentioned before on Friday, he had liked some tweets against the show. Jeff Teet's father, Dan, had liked some tweets against the show. They were aware of what I was saying on this show. And again, I'm not mad because it's sports. And one of the best things I love about sports is you can leave your personal differences out the door. This is not a personal thing. This was flat out awesome sports banter and back and forth. And I congratulate Dhane Smith. Again, I'm happy for Dhane Smith winning Finals MVP because he earned it. He deserved it. And I believe he was the best player on the floor for the majority of the series and the playoffs. I can see that Matt Finch was helping them early in Game 3. But Dhane Smith, no doubt, was the consistent piece on this team along with Matt Finch. And those guys deserve nothing but our respect and our congratulations. Also, I'm just glad that it seems like, and this may be a little bit of a reach, but for me personally, as a sports fan in general, I feel like I'm a part of this thing. I'm not, of course, a champion in any way. I'm more so of a person who feels like he was a part of the ride. He was a part of I feel like I'm a part of the season 1 ride that the NLL took. Because again, I didn't play. I've never played lacrosse. I don't even have a lacrosse stick. I would like to buy one. But look, I live in Savannah, Georgia. We're not supposed to have lacrosse sticks right now. It'd be great if we did. But I don't know if I can go into Dick's Sporting Goods and just randomly find one. And if I could, I didn't know that before. I know now. I love this league. I love these players. I love these teams. I have nothing but respect for these players and teams, and I have nothing but love for Dhane Smith and the Buffalo Bandits and Coach John Tavares as they finally got over the hump, and this city deserved it. Shout out to the Buffalo Bandits. Shout out to Dhane Smith. Shout out to the NLL for an insane and successful season 1. Again, that's all I have to say about Twitter beef. My first reaction, I was on FaceTime with somebody. My first reaction, my mouth dropped. I said, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. When I saw Dhane Smith had quoted me with that picture, I was ecstatic. My heart was racing because I loved it. The fanboy inside of me was so happy that my craft is being recognized as something significant. Do you know how many fans have gone after players, but not gone after, but have talked about players before and never get to be recognized? I was quoted by Kevin Durant one time. I was mentioned on Nick Wright's podcast, his What's Right with Nick Wright podcast. Those guys are huge, and yet this felt more meaningful to me because I've invested so much emotionally into this league. So thank you to Dhane Smith. Thank you to everyone that's been involved with this. And the best part is, that was only season 1. There's so much more to go with Dilly Dive, and I want to thank these players, these coaches, these teams, this league, and these fans of lacrosse for helping me feel like I'm a part of this whole thing. Just shout out to Finals MVP Dhane Smith and Dilly Dive League MVP Dhane Smith for those that did not catch that earlier this postseason. When I come back, we're going to react to PLL Week 1, how the fans in attendance, how many there were, how the product looked, and my final takeaway. And also, I low-key am number 1 on the Pro Lacrosse Talk fantasy group. Just saying. This is Daily Dive. Don't go anywhere. We'll wrap it up next. know if you're on the West Coast, you're probably drinking your coffee or just finished it. If you're on the East Coast, you had your coffee this morning, but you probably still have not made it through the day, and that's because the day isn't over, of course. But also your coffee may need a little bit of switch up. We're talking new flavors that you never knew you needed. B Rose Coffee Company is coffee made by gamers, for gamers, and of course lacrosse and Daily Dive fans. To support this show and try out the awesome coffee flavors you never knew you needed, go to brosecoffeeco.com and use code DailyDive at checkout. It helps our show, and of course, you get what you need to get through the week. B Rose Coffee Company and Daily Dive. Our last brew presented by code Daily Dive on B Rose Coffee Company. PLL Week 1 reaction and recap. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room here was Lyle Thompson, whose absence wasn't really touched on, although they did mention a little bit. But you forgot kind of quickly, and that's a good thing for the PLL, that this was not a burden or a black eye on them, because obviously Lyle Thompson playing great for Six Nations, but of course the PLL is a brand and they need their best players out there. I feel like the Albany fans were scarce on Saturday, but there was a better turnout for Sunday's games, and I thought that was awesome for them. I loved the new look uniforms that everyone hated on. I thought they looked great. I thought they all looked really clean and sharp, and there wasn't too much going on there. So great job for the champion and, of course, PLL in those uniforms. The 32-second face-off shot clock was awesome. The strategy was incredible because face-off guys now can just take it. I believe the first score of the season was TD Erlin, who, of course, is face-off for Toronto Rock. He goes over there and blasts one like 15 seconds into the season. So that was pretty awesome. The strategy was obviously very cool to start, and it just brought more action. I know some fans were saying, oh, well, there's college gets it right. I don't agree with that. I think in a world of quick thinking and apps and social media and baseball shot clock or pitch clock, it's awesome that we got to see the quicker action for the PLL. It wasn't quite the NLL arena action, but I loved it nonetheless. I thought Ryder Garnsey, the rookie, was incredible. They had like 6 goals in their game. Connor Fields was amazing for the Archers. I think Archers are the best team for me right now. And also, as I mentioned before this segment started, I felt like I had a pretty good fantasy week. In fact, I was first on the Pro Lacrosse Talk group, and I'm 24th out of 12,000 plus people on the official PLL group on the fantasy. Again, I love the PLL app. I hope the NLL gets their own in the next year or so. Hopefully not or so, but rather in the next year, like I said. But it's just a great weekend of lacrosse in general. It's going to be great seeing the Buffalo Bandits players probably back for the Chaos next week or so. If they're not going to vacation in Cancun, who knows? But just awesome action all around for lacrosse. In the NLL Finals Game 3, and the Buffalo Bandits winning it, and of course, the awesome PLL, which I thought was a really good product, and I love that it was on ABC to start off on Saturday. So there's more to get to, of course, this week on Daily Dive. We got so much more to react to, and I felt like this show is growing so much. And again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and reacting, whether it be positive or negatively. You guys are pushing the algorithm in this direction, and that can only mean great things for our future. We're going to get better. We're going to be fans just like you. So don't go anywhere, because this is never stopping. This is Daily Dive, and again, I want to thank the fans. I want to thank the players for interacting on Twitter. Thank you for watching. I want to thank the best people behind the scenes that are helping keep me motivated and working on great things for Season 2. Remember, Friday's the last show of Season 1, and so I cannot wait for that. But for everyone else, I am the humble Michael Carbelis saying you guys have a great rest of your day and week. And remember, tomorrow, same time, same place. This is Daily Dive. Bye.